Hey guys, what's up? This is Don and welcome to another Cinema 4D tutorial. And today I'm going to be showing you how you can create this particle animation where you start off with nothing and then these particles appear and they basically morph into the text. I'm going to begin with a text spline and just type out what I want. I'm going to type in particles. This can be whatever you want it to say. And I can get an extrude NURBS and drop the text into the extrude NURBS to get some 3D depth. Maybe just increase the depth from 20 to 35. And then next we need to get PolyFX. This is the tool which is going to be doing most of the work here. So go to the MoGraph submenu and get PolyFX. And for this to work, it needs to be nested within a certain hierarchy. So we need to go to create object null, and let's call this parent. And then we can get the PolyFX and our text and drop both of them into the parent. And you need to make sure that the PolyFX is above your object, otherwise this will not work. Next up, we need to click on PolyFX and then add an effector. We're going to start off with the random effector just to illustrate what PolyFX actually does. So if we go to MoGraph, effector, random, you can see that our text is being broken apart along all of the seams, and it's being randomized with the effector. So this will come into play later, but for now we need to make sure that all of these pieces are roughly the same size, or at least the range between the smallest and the largest isn't so large, because these large pieces will not look very good when we try to do the transition. So for this, we're just going to shut off the random effector for now. Let's go to our extrude NURBS. We can go to caps, the start and the end. We'll add a fillet cap and a fillet cap and give it a radius of maybe just 2 and 3 steps on each, so we get this nice smooth beveled edge. Next up, we need to add some segments on the faces here. So if we go to where it says type down here, we can change this from n-gons to triangles, and then we can click regular grid and then lower this width number to maybe 5. So we start to get some subdivision on the faces here. We still don't have any subdivision on the inside faces, so to add those we need to go to the text spline itself, and under intermediate points we want to change this from adaptive to uniform. And if I go to extrude NURBS, you can see now we have some segments going backward. We need to add more going down, so we have some separation of all of these. So if we just simply go to that's an email. If we simply go to object, we can go to the subdivision and set this to maybe 5, so we have some segments going back as well. And all in all, we have a lot of segments scattered across our type. So now when I enable random effector again, you can now see that we have way more particles to work with, and this generally looks better than having all those large sections. Next up, we can start to set up the animation. Again, we need to turn off the random effector. That will come into play much later. First up, we need to create an effect where the particles appear out of nothing. So if we go to MoGraph, we can go to effector and plane. And let's drop this into the effector section of the PolyFX and make sure that it's above the random effector. So if we go to the plane effector settings, we don't want to change the position, we only want to change the scale. And we need to do this on a uniform scale and set this scale value from 0 to -1. Everything is going to disappear, don't worry, just simply go to the fall off tab and set the shape from infinite to box. So now only where this box is, the particles will disappear. So We need to line this up with our text and make sure that it holds the entire word. So if we go to the front view, this will help us. We need to first of all make sure it's roughly in the center of our text, and set the Y position to something nice and whole, so maybe 60. It's gonna work fine. We can increase the height and we can increase the width. You can maybe get away with a lower width, but then you have to lower the fall off, this red rectangle on the inside. So roundabout here looks pretty good. I'm gonna go in and just zero out or square off these values. So 574, that's gonna become just maybe 580. 207 will become 210, and I'm gonna leave the Z because that's pretty good as is. I can maybe set the fall off to 35. I like to work with whole numbers. Next up, we can go to frame 0, set a keyframe for the position of the plane effector, move forward a few seconds. I'm gonna go to 4 seconds, and I can pull this out to the right side and set another keyframe. So if we play that back, we have our effector moving out of the way and revealing the particles. If we look from this view, you can maybe better see what's happening. So we have the basic animation. Now we can go in and jazz it up with the random effector. So I'm going to go back to frame 0. We first of all need to make the random effector the same size and the same position as our plane effector so that it moves along at the same pace and at the same time. So we need to set its shape to box also. We can move it up to 60 on the y-axis. Let's set this value to 580, the size x, the size y to 210. And this is why I used whole numbers, because they're very easy to remember. And I can set the fall off to 35, and you can see now this fits directly on top of the plane effector. Now if I just get the random effector and make it a child of the plane effector, when the plane effector moves, it's going to carry the random effector with it. So straight away we're going to get something which looks more dynamic and more random. You could stop here, but you can do a lot more. So let's go to the parameters of the random effector. We can maybe increase the position. So if we make this 100 by 100 by 100, that just makes the cluster of particles a little larger. You can see that all of these particles are orientated pretty much in the same direction, depending on where they were lying on the face. So all the ones going that way, they're all orientated the same. All the ones at the front, they're all orientated flat. So if we go to the rotation, we can change that to be more random. So the heading, the pitch, and the banking, we can set this to 500, maybe 350 and 150 respectively. And now you can see that we have some random orientation to all of these particles. And if we just hit play, you can see we're starting to get somewhere. Now you can again stop here, but you can do a lot more. If we go to the effector, we can change the random mode from random to sorted, which I think gives you a slightly better look. This is sorted and this is with random, and when we hit play, you can see we get something which looks pretty cool. You can try other modes such as the turbulence. This is going to take a long time to calculate because it's constantly moving and it's animated. So there's always going to be some really interesting movement. And you know, from here you can just go and experiment with what these values do. You can change the animation speed, speed it up or slow it down. Just depends on what you're trying to go for. But that's it. Now you know how to create text from particles. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial. Bye.